All right, so Candace Owens posted that she received information that put the final pieces together for her, allowing her to say with full confidence that she believes that Charlie Kirk was betrayed by the leadership of Turning Point USA and some of the very people who eulogized him on stage at his funeral. She stated that she will be naming names and providing the evidence for her claims. She did that, and what I have found out about the individual mentioned, the French-American investor, is going to blow your mind. I've actually connected a potential piece here proving that Candace is correct. Candace then also, for the first time that I've seen in this investigation, called out Erica Kirk to respond to this. Let's get right into it. Before we do though, guys, and as always, please make sure you are subscribed. It is my goal and duty here every day to bring you commentary from a God-first perspective. We seek the truth regardless of outcome or consequence so that we can remain aligned and on the path toward our potential in this life. Misery comes from misalignment with truth. We avoid that here. Subscribe. And if you want to go even further, join the God First Nation here and get yourself some God First, One Nation Under God merch and apparel at ZachCostello.com. I'm Zach Costello. Okay, so we are all clear about the things that Candace Owens promised regarding delivering the information provided to her that provided the final pieces putting together that Charlie was betrayed by Turning Point USA leadership. This is a longer clip, but you need to listen carefully to the entire thing so that you can understand the claim being made here. This involves the Turning Point USA Chief Operating and Development Officer, a French-American investor and donor, who I did some digging on, and you are not going to believe what I found. Listen to this first.
Charlie died with his soul intact. Died with his soul intact. He said no. He said no to a lot of money. But it was actually a tip that I received early on that pulled everything together for me in a really dark way. It was water cooler talk at Turning Point USA immediately after Charlie's assassination. A few people had signified and were speculating and thinking about things that were weird. And, you know, I told you we had so many people from Turning Point USA that were just venting in our tip box and telling us that they didn't like the way management was acting and things were weird. And there were just a flurry of things that were coming in. And a few of them had signified that one of the things that was being whispered about that people thought was quite odd that they learned that happened on the day of Charlie's assassination was a rumor pertaining to Justin Streiff. An oddly placed phone call that he made almost immediately, as they say, this is alleged, it wasn't on the phone call, after Charlie was shot. And I will say allegedly because there's 6 people at Turning Point USA who have said this, that were talking about this. This rumor got passed around. They said that Justin had placed an immediate call to a donor prospect. And I said, that's weird, okay? I'd like to know more about that. Can everybody try to figure out what donor that was? Now, it's possible it could have just been a very close donor friend. Charlie had them. He did. There were some donors that he loved like family members. And so that was a potential long shot thing, but just interesting. I'd like to know who he was so close to that required an immediate call. Then it turns out that these ladies told me that this donor actually had a pretty big piece of bait on the hook for Turning Point USA. A piece of their billion-dollar company. They were anticipating some IPO, and that this was going to be life-changing money, okay? We're not talking like, oh, a check that's going to be reeled in for $5 million or $10 million or $50 million or like the $90 million that Turning Point USA raised in the first couple of weeks following Charlie's assassination. We are talking like billionaire money, potentially billions of dollars. And this was a very big secret, a huge secret. Just a handful of people were allowed to even know about this, that this was happening. In fact, there's probably people that are watching this right now at Turning Point USA who work in donations. I think it's a pretty large department that have no idea, have never even heard of this because that's how incredibly top-level secret this was, okay? But people began to find out about this because of just an unfortunate conversation that had been left unattended to, okay? Now, why was the secret supposed to be so guarded? Why is this person getting a phone call? I wanted to know. I wanted to know more. And I start messaging our mommy sleuths and our daddy sleuths and all of my sources at Turning Point USA. And I'm saying anything that you can tell me about this in case this might be important. And I got an answer on the name of a donor, and I had completely forgotten because, again, this happened so early following the assassination. I am talking before I even went to Wyoming. My brain was still traumatized. I had so much information that I was trying to process while I was grieving that I literally forgot the big part that I learned about this donor. I forgot. And these young women told me that this donor was French American and that this donor's name was Pierre. And it wasn't until yesterday after we went off air that I presented to you all of this stuff about the DuPont family, that it clicked. And these ladies messaged me and said, "Oh, you figured it out. It's Pierre DuPont. Question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point." I had mentioned Pierre DuPont on yesterday's show. And this took my breath away. I will be honest. I cried really hard yesterday thinking, my goodness, how could I have forgotten that this donor was French American, that was the big thing. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out that time because I hadn't even considered France's involvement in anything. Like, who do I know that's French and has tons of money and is involved in technologies and could possibly be working on a big check that could be kept secret because it's about to IPO and billions are on the line. And then it all kind of came together. And I would like an answer about this Pierre, the billionaire French-American donor. And I would like a clean answer as to whether or not it is Mr. Pierre DuPont. Yeah. Because this would be a devastatingly dark story. And my sources are very sure that this is what was on the line, that this was life-changing money. And they are very sure that this individual got a phone call after the assassination. And I think that we deserve to know. I don't think this should be a secret, right? Charity shouldn't be a secret. Why? And by the way, it leads to more questions like, how could you say that you knew that your IPO was going to lead to billions of dollars? How could you promise that? How could you promise that? And did Charlie know? Did Charlie know? And I'm going to be honest with you. I know a lot of billionaires, they don't part with their money like that. They don't part with their money and offer people pieces of their company, people that aren't even their family members. So why was that offer on the table? I have so many questions and I'm going to ask them publicly. And I think that we demand answers. We should all be demanding answers because this is now starting to feel very, very dark. It's too French, right? It's just too French. We just can't all be hanging out in Delaware. And there's one more thing that came in regarding Andrew Kovat, very close family friend of Andrew Kovat, had messaged me early on. And I, again, was not tracking any of this at the time, but they had said that they felt that Andrew Kovat was acting weird. And I'm sure that's not a big deal. I think we were all acting weird. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. But moreover, they had mentioned that specifically Andrew had told them that when Charlie said no to Bibi, he lost out on millions. Now I'm going to say allegedly because this is a tip, but I have that tip in writing. I'm not lying to you. And I thought to myself, that is so weird. How could the spokesperson at Turning Point USA be how could they be gaining millions from that? What is the structure here of these contracts that even people that are in PR, people that are like running PR departments are getting tips on the basis of donations? I don't know how this is working, but we need to figure out how this is working. I think it's really important that we learn the truth about what happened. Who's Pierre? Is it Pierre DuPont? And has Turning Point been paid? Obviously, it wouldn't be on this year's taxes. You're not going to find those on this year's taxes. But They would be on next year's, but we can ask now.
Justin Streiff is the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Development Officer at Turning Point USA. 6 individuals put him making a phone call to a large, high-stakes investor the moments after Charlie Kirk was killed. That individual, Candace says, is Pierre DuPont. He is a private equity investor at Cerity Partners and a board member, this is important, a board member of the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation, which funds and supports organizations and entrepreneurs that are committed to carrying out the legacy of Governor Pete DuPont, who was the 68th governor of, guess where? Delaware, which Candace has obviously been highly focused on. He lived in Wilmington, Delaware, but get this, he was a retired director with the Wilmington, Delaware law firm Richards, Layton, and Finger until May 2014, which is the same law firm that represents Candace Owens in the Brigitte Macron case, whose office is located at 1 Rodney Square, in the same building as the FBI resident agency that the whistleblower told Candace Owens receives and processes foreign diplomats and dignitaries that fly into the Wilmington, Delaware airport, including the Egyptian flight that departed from Provo, Utah, the morning of Charlie Kirk's assassination after dropping the military contractors. So, this Pierre DuPont individual that Candace Owens just identified as speaking with Justin Streiff in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death, if he is one of the 3 sons of Pete DuPont, I mean, this individual, Pierre DuPont, serves on the board of the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation. I think the likelihood that this is his son is very high. But if he is the son of the former governor of Delaware, Pete DuPont, he is potentially connected to the law firm and the 1 Rodney Square building in Wilmington, Delaware, which is connected to the Egyptian flight that flew into Provo, Utah, and dumped military contractors, the week leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Yeah, we're going to need answers from Erica Kirk about Justin Streiff and the details behind this investment as Candace just relayed there. But here is Candace calling out Erica to do just that. And this is the first time that I've heard her call Erica out. Listen.
We're not done, of course. I am hopeful that Erica Kirk will issue a statement. I think in this new capacity, CEO and chairman, that we deserve an answer about that check, that phone call. We deserve a clear answer on that. And no dancing around it, because like I said, my sources were pretty solid on that, and I am just kind of trying to digest the devastation of it all, really.
Turning Point USA is a massively influential organization. We're talking turning presidential elections, galvanizing the public opinions of millions of young people. This is a big money, big power organization. Charlie Kirk, and I didn't realize this until after he died, was big time. Erica is a grieving wife and mother, yes, but she is also the CEO now of Turning Point USA. There are individuals and foreign entities that had a lot at stake in decisions and direction that Charlie was taking this organization, leaving the pro-Israel cause, refusing to deplatform Tucker Carlson, starting a Doge team to find waste, fraud, and abuse within the organization. If big money and big power is on the line, we all know how these elites behave. You know what? I have faith in Erica. I know there are those that doubt. I actually believe Erica wants the truth about what happened to her husband. And the fact that she hasn't stopped Candace Owens yet, I think speaks volumes. I'm Zach Costello.